Hey everyone, I'm Army Gaming, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Analysis. Up for analysis today is Olafur. Olafur lives in the high frozen mountains of Scandinavia. Someone wrote a book about him, so he became very popular and started receiving visits every year around winter. He hates being so popular, that's why he decided to run away to this monster universe. What a not so glamorous monsters. Design wise, he is definitely not one of my favorites. In fact, he could probably place quite high in the ugliest monster competition. But anyways, designs are one thing, let's talk about his stats. So first things first, there are currently 20 Earth Legendary Monsters, and Olafur has a power of 3,267, and this puts him in 14th place, so not that good, Olafur. His life on the other hand, 34,985, this makes him the monster with the second highest life for Earth Legendary Monsters. That's right, he just displaced Hiram the Tenacious. Sorry VIP Monster, you have been kicked out of second place. For Earth Legendary Monsters, Oros is still leading with an impressive life of 40,112, so it's gonna be a while before he gets top. But anyways, when we include all legendary monsters, every single element, Olafur has the third highest life, and the only monsters that beat him are Hercule and Oros, so overall his life is super impressive. But what happens with monsters that have a really high life? They suffer in the speed category, and in fact his speed of 3,300, this puts him in 13th place, tied with Brontis. So not a really good power, not a really good speed, however really impressive life. But fortunately for Olafur, his trait is immune to stun, and lots of earth monsters have stun skills. So even though Olafur is quite slow, the fact that he's immune to stun, this really helps him out being an earth monster. So anyways, let's move on to skills. We have Olafur Mace, Olafur Rock, and oh boy, you guys are gonna have fun with this. Deals insane special damage to all enemies. This is a special based AoE that deals 80 damage to all of the enemy monsters. This is a really good special. Even though for earth monsters, Olafur does not have the most impressive power, with a special like this, I guess it doesn't really matter. All you have to do is give Olafur 1 or 2 high level strength runes and you're gonna be good to go. Anyways, down to skills group 1, we have and Groan. Of all of these skills, the only skill worth talking about is Deals moderate earth damage, removes all positive status effects from target. This skill deals 35 damage to a single enemy, it costs 20 in stamina and has no cooldown. The only reason I'm talking about this skill is because of its effect, the fact that it removes positive effects from one enemy monster, and the fact that it has a 0 turn cooldown. In Team Wars, when you're going up against earth monsters, one of the biggest troubles you run into is the fact that they have so many shields. Take General Tomb for example, he can give his whole team a double life shield. And on another note, General Tomb can also reflect 100% of the damage he receives, so having a skill like this that can remove positive effects, that could really come in handy. And from my personal experience, maybe you guys have had completely different experiences, but for me, whenever it includes an earth monster, a lot of the times it'll come down to my earth monster versus the enemy earth monster. So having a 0 cooldown skill that can remove positive effects from the enemy monster, that could really come in handy. So it's up to you if you think this skill is worth running. I just felt the need to mention this skill for those of you that may overlook skills group 1. So now we're gonna move down to skills group 2. And before I begin, I just have to say, this monster has probably baffled me the most. Based on his stats, it's clear that he's supposed to be a tanky monster. Based on his special skill, he wants to be an attacker. And being tanky and an attacker, that can go hand in hand. But what you're gonna see from this monster's skills, they kind of sometimes work against him and they don't really help him out too much. So anyways, let's just get into it. We start things off with Gur. Deals heavy special damage, gains a 50% shield, requires cooldown. This skill deals 50 damage to a single enemy, it costs 27 stamina, it has a 2 turn cooldown, and you get a big shield. Assuming you don't use any life runes on this monster, that's a 17,000 shield. That is really good. And on a plus side, the 2 turn cooldown isn't too bad, the stamina cost is nice, and 50 damage, 50 special base damage, that is perfect for going up against earth monsters. And if Olafur is even running just one high level life rune, it's gonna be really hard to kill him. So Gur is a skill you might want to equip. And next we have Grunt. Deals low earth damage to all enemies, removes all positive status effects from all targets, requires cooldown. This is an AoE skill that deals 30 damage to all enemy monsters, it costs 35 stamina, and it has a 3 turn cooldown. And I guess you can say this is an upgraded version of the skill from skills group 1 because it removes all positive effects from all of the enemy monsters. Now this is a good skill, the one thing I don't like is the cooldown. 3 turns seems like a lot to me. Now of course against earth monsters that can give themselves full life shields, 50% life shields, 30% shields, and of course there's monsters like a Tomb and Oros that can reflect 100% of the damage they receive, or Oros specifically that can give himself life regeneration or direct all the single attacks to him. Having a skill like this can really come in handy. But once again, the main problem is the cooldown. 3 turns to me, that is really high. And especially if it was to come down to one earth monster versus one earth monster, having this AoE skill, that wouldn't benefit you too much. In that case, I think the skill from skills group 1 would probably benefit you more. But to be fair, that's only true when it's one earth monster versus one earth monster. In Team Wars, if you're facing off against a General Tomb and he was to do his full life shield to all of his allies, you could use Grunt and get rid of that full life shield to everyone, then that would benefit you more. So it's kind of hard to say which skill is better to run, and that's ultimately a decision you have to decide for yourself. Next we have Harumph. Deals heavy earth damage, gives immunity against daze, freeze, and possession to itself, requires cooldown. This skill targets a single enemy dealing 50 damage, costing 34 stamina, has a 3-turn cooldown, so you get Daze immunity, immunity to possession, immunity to freeze. On the surface, this seems like a really good skill. And in fact, when I first saw it, I thought, wow. But then as I thought about the skill more and more, I can't really say how good it is. So first things first, the good thing about this skill is that after you use this skill, you're basically going to be immune to the common deny skills, and you're also going to be immune to Daze. The only thing you won't be immune to that might be hazardous is blind. But still, your trait is immune to stun, you'll be immune to freeze, you'll be immune to possession, you'll be immune to Daze. You're pretty much well off. Now of course, when we're talking about earth monsters, there are monsters that have mega stun, so then you can argue that it doesn't even matter that he has this immune to freeze, immune to possession, because that isn't really the threat when you're facing off against earth monsters, and that's a totally valid argument. Anyways, the more and more I thought about the skill, I really didn't see it as coming that much in handy. One thing for sure is that you're never going to run 3 speedruns on this monster. You really wouldn't benefit from it. Now if you're thinking you can just use Olafur in a team wars involving magic or water monsters, since magic tends to have possession skills and water monsters tend to have free skills, think back to what I said about this monster never going to be running 3 speedruns. On the other hand, the enemy deny monster is going to be running 3 speedruns, so chances are, if you can immobilize that enemy monster, the enemy water monster is going to freeze you before you can use Harumph. The enemy magic monster is going to possess you before you can use Harumph, so then it doesn't really matter, you're still going to be immobilized, and that's pretty much why I decided it wouldn't be that great. Now of course, if your main deny monster is faster than the enemy's main deny monster and you can deny them, if you can immobilize them before they can immobilize your Olafur, then of course having this skill would really come in handy, because then you'd be safe for the duration of the match. So from skills group 2, really any of the skills may or may not be for you. So now let's see skills group 3. We have Oomph. Deals heavy special damage, requires cooldown. 50 damage to a single enemy, costs 28 stamina, 2-turn cooldown. Really vanilla skill, there's nothing much to it. And in Team Wars, because you're going up against earth monsters, this is actually a pretty good skill, because it is near impossible finishing off earth monsters with only earth attacks. So you need a special based attack, and the only other special based attack he has is the one that gives him a big shield. I really wish this skill would have given him something else. Even a little damage boost would have been nice, a double damage would have been extra nice, or really just anything. The fact that it's so vanilla, I'm not a fan of it, but because it is special based, it would actually help you out in Team Wars. And then we have deals heavy earth damage, may stun target, requires cooldown. 55 damage to a single enemy, 31 stamina, 1-turn cooldown. Now as a rule of thumb, I like all my monsters having some sort of immobilizing skill, because you never know when it can come in handy. Now of course a lot of earth monsters are immune to stun, but Monster Legends team involve 3 monsters, so chances are there's always going to be one target you can immobilize, so it's always good just to have that stun with you. However, if the match was to come down to an earth monster versus an earth monster, then having this skill really wouldn't come in handy. And next is Wii. Deals heavy earth damage, returns 75% of received damage, requires cooldown. This skill deals 50 damage, costs 28 stamina, 2-turn cooldown, and you return 75% of the damage you receive. That is pretty darn good, kind of. Obviously returning 75 damage is a big deal. That's 3/4 of the damage you receive. If for example an enemy monster was to hit you with an attack that dealt 30,000 damage, you would reflect 22,500. That's pretty insane. However, there are problems to this skill. The main problem is that you have to take the damage. So Wii doesn't work really well with Gur, because as you know, Gur gives you a 50% shield. So if your monster has return damage, and then you apply a big shield, when the enemy monster hits you, the shield is going to absorb the damage, so you're not going to be reflecting anything. So in order for you to utilize your return damage, you need to take hits. And unfortunately, Olafur doesn't have any way of recovering the life he loses. Not like Oros, Oros can take a lot of hits, but at least he has a life regeneration skill. And General Tomb faces a similar problem with his damage return, except his damage return also gives him double life. So his is significantly better than Olafur's. So like I said a little earlier, this monster completely baffles me. I'm honestly not sure what the best skill set for this monster is. I honestly wish I could equip all of his skills, because I feel like they're all needed at some point. Every single skill I see, there isn't a point when I wouldn't want it. Returning 75% of damage can come in handy so many times, but when I'm coming close to death, having a skill like Gur could really protect me. And if I'm fighting against an earth monster and I have damage return set on me, I wouldn't want to use any of the earth skills because they wouldn't deal any damage, and I wouldn't want to use Gur because then the big shield would work against damage return, so then I'd want to have Oomph, which just deals 50 damage. But at the same time, do I really want such a vanilla skill when I can have an immobilizing skill that stuns, or when I can have a skill like Harumph that gives me immune to Daze, immune to possession, immune to freeze? Or do I want a skill like Grunts that can remove all positive effects from all of the enemy monsters? Or do I maybe want the skills from skills group 1 that is a spammable skill that removes positive good effects from one enemy monster? It's honestly hard to choose. So before attempting to give you guys what I think is an okay skill set, I'm going to start off with runes. And there's a few different rune combinations you can utilize on this monster. The first is to give him 1 life, 1 strength, and 1 speed rune, and that will just help all of his stats. The second thing you can do is just to make him like your average attacker, 2 strength runes and a speed rune. Or you can can disregard the speed rune and just give him 2 strength runes and a life rune. Or another thing you can do is just to give him 2 life runes and 1 strength rune. Or quite possibly the last option you can do is just to give him 3 life runes and just rely on using we. Just rely on the enemy attacking you and you reflecting that 75% of damage. I'm not sure how successful that'll be, but I guess you can try it out. For myself personally, I think I'm leaning towards the 1 speed, 1 life and 1 strength rune, or to the 2 strength runes and 1 life rune. And as for what skill set to choose on this monster, once again there is no clear choice. You honestly just have to pick what you think would work best for you. Part of me honestly just wants to run gur, and we. And even though that may seem like a really odd skill set, I feel like it'd work the best for team wars involving earth monsters. One thing I do want to say is I probably will never be using this monster in a team wars involving earth monsters. He is just significantly outclassed by other monsters. So even if you were to get him, I highly recommend getting some other earth monster because this is not one of the better ones. Another viable skill set would be gur, harumph, we, and or instead of you can substitute that with grunt. And yeah, that's basically it. So that is going to conclude the analysis on Olafur. I really want to know what skill set would you guys use on this monster. Please let me know in the comments below. And more importantly, if you can, please explain why you chose those specific skills. Why did you choose those 4 skills over the other skills? Because I had a really hard time deciding what skills. Even with the decision I said, I'm still not sure if I want those skills. So please share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a conversation. Let's see if maybe, just maybe, we can come together as a community and decide on an okay skill set. With that being said, I want to thank everyone who made it to the very end of the video. Thank you guys so much. I hope everyone has a great amazing day or a great amazing night. Remember to dream big and pursue your passions.